Page 4, Little Johnny Jones. On page 3, they show you a bunch of musical symbols and things in the music and some keys on the keyboard. We're going to go over all this. I don't like lists and I don't like having to sit down and memorize a bunch of junk. You need to know all that stuff. Let's just talk about it in the music. So all the stuff on page 3 I'm going to talk about in the lessons as we go through the book. And I'll talk about it more than once too, because you're a lot of review. It's very, very important that you really know and understand and remember all this stuff. At the top of page 4, they give you the position on the keyboard where the notes are. And these notes are the notes that we're going to be using over the next few pieces. I don't have a lot of help for you there. You just need to memorize these notes. Let's take a look at the keyboard here. You notice that there's a bunch of white keys and a bunch of black keys. Duh, obvious. And the black keys are in groups. We have a group of 3 and a group of 2. And they alternate 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2. The relationship of the white note to the black note tells us what the white note is. If that makes any sense at all. For instance, we talk about C's a lot. The note C, like middle C or high C or low C or whatever. Well, a C on a piano keyboard is located at the bottom of a group of 2. There's a group of 2, and right below it is this note. That's a C. We have a lot of C's on the piano. C, 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 C. They're all over the place. As far as which C you're going to use, that's where the music comes in. It tells you which C to use. Your job is simply to memorize this note, this key on the piano, wherever it is a C. And it goes up the alphabet. C, D, E, F, G. And when we get to G, we start over because the notes in music is only the first 7 letters of the alphabet. And when you get to G, you start over because there's no H. So you just start over with A again, and it just repeats. So I could go down here, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C's here, yeah, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. It just keeps repeating. But you don't have time to be counting up and down to figure out what the notes are. You really need to memorize these, and you can take some time to do it. You don't have to do it all right now. But in the music, the notes we're going to be using are these 5 notes and these 5 notes. So you got C on the bottom of each of these groups, and C, D, E, F, G. So just memorize, like, where's an F? You should instantly know that eventually. And F is located at the bottom of a group of 3. F, 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 F. They're all over the place. So please do your best to try and memorize these 5 notes on the keyboard and instantly know what they are. So a D is in the middle of a group of 2, an E is above a group of 2, the F we talked about, the G, we have 2 middle notes in a group of 3, and the G is the lower, so it's lower middle. Lower middle, upper middle, below, above, whatever. You work on those. It's just I suggest you just drill yourself on them. Just pick a note, any note. What's this note? You should instantly know that's an A. Or this note, you should instantly know it's a D. So drill yourself on these for a while. Now, we got to know which notes we're going to play because there's a lot of C's and D's and all this stuff on here. And that's where the music comes in. Look at Little Johnny Jones. Hopefully, if you've been through book 1, and I haven't, so far when I'm recording this, I haven't done lessons on book 1 yet. I don't know if I'm going to or not. Hopefully you already know about reading music and all that. You've already got some introduction into that. I don't know if you have or not, so I'm going to explain it. If you have, this is a good review. If you haven't, try and keep up. In Little Johnny Jones, let's look at the music. You have 2 groups of 5 lines. You have a group of 5 lines, and under it is another group of 5 lines, and they're connected with these vertical lines. The group of 5 lines is called a staff. Just the lines themselves is called a staff. So we have 2 staffs, and they're connected with these vertical lines. These vertical lines are called bar lines or measure lines, depending on what country you're from. I'm liable to call them either one. They simply tell you by connecting the lines, they're telling you that you have to read both lines at the same time. You're playing both lines at the same time because they're connected. Isn't that going to be fun? You're just going to love this. I know we are. At the beginning of the staffs and the lines, you see the curly brace? That is the symbol that identifies this whole mess as a grand staff. Piano players use grand staffs. Harp players, organ players, any instrument that needs a whole lot of notes usually use a grand staff, and that's that curly brace that tells us that. Has nothing to do with how to play the music. It's just explaining what a grand staff is here. At the beginning of each staff, there is a weird-looking symbol. These are called clef signs. The upper staff is a treble clef or G clef. Could be called either one. And the lower staff is a bass clef or F clef. And these clefs tell you the names of the notes on the lines and spaces in the staff. That made no sense at all, but so let me explain. And the upper staff, the G clef, I call it, a treble clef or G clef. Well, the lower part of that staff, there's a circle. It curves around. The line that goes right in the middle of that curve, it's the next to the bottom line in the staff. That's where the note G is. The G clef is telling you where the note G is. And if you know where the note G is, you can figure out any of the other notes. And that's the idea. So the staff is telling us where the notes are going to be, the names of the notes. The next to the bottom line on that staff, the next to the bottom, not the bottom, the next to the bottom is a G. I leave it to you to memorize that eventually. So you'll see the G over there, about the fifth note over. The G, that it has a 5 above it. G. That's a G. And it is not just any G. It is the G sort of in the middle of the keyboard, this G. Not this G, not this G, or this G. No, 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 no. It's got to be this G. So when you see that note in the music, you play this key on the keyboard. It ties them together. But look at all the first 4 notes. It starts here. The first note's on a little line below the staff. That note is called middle C. And we refer to middle C a lot. It's not middle C because it's in the middle of the keyboard. No, it's not. The middle of the keyboard is closer to the F. It's not one key, it's in between 2 keys. But the C, the middle C is a little under, but when you sit in the middle of the keyboard, it's going to be the C in front of you, here. I'll leave it to you to memorize that. And then the other notes going up, there's a C, D, E, F, G. I just memorized the names of these notes in the music. And I do what's known as a say and play drill to help me. And that is, I'll say the note and play the note. So it's a C, D, E, F, G, F, E, F, E, D, E. I just over and over, and I just saying it. I go kind of fast because I've been doing this forever. But you do, and I encourage you to do that. Just say it and play it for a while yet until they become automatic. There's a lot more notes to learn than these, so make sure you get these 5 notes down. Now for the bottom staff. It is a bass clef or F clef. It's an F clef because it's pointing out where the note F is on the staff. And F is the line that's in between the 2 dots. There's 2 dots and there's a line between them. That's an F. So if a note were on that line, the next to the top line, it's an F. And it's the F right below middle C. Remember I told you where middle C is? Now we already know G is right above middle C. And F is below middle C here. So we got these. Sounds good, don't it? That's what the clefs are pointing out. And from there you can figure out the other notes. If you don't have time to figure them out, you need to memorize these. So the first note in there is the lower middle space, and that is a C. Down here you have middle C, and this is this C. And the next one is the next space. Well, the lines are every other note, and the spaces are every other note. Let's see other notes. So the spaces, you have a C, and then the next space up would be an E, because it's every other note. And then the next one is a D, and then a C. You get the idea? You do the play and say drill thing. Just play it and say it. The numbers above the top staff or below the bottom staff, those are finger numbers. They tell you which finger to use to play the note. Got a lot of numbers in music, but we'll figure them out. They're numbered. Fingers are numbered. Thumb is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Little finger's 5. They're numbered. So it's like in the upper staff, the 1 above that middle C, that's for the thumb. You do that. If I put my thumb here, I'm going to put my hand here. I'm just going to put the other fingers on the notes next to it, and that's my hand position. That's where the hand goes to start. I mean, later on we'll be moving around, but let's just take it one thing at a time here. And then the left hand, its little finger on this C, and that puts the hand in this position. So here. And we call this C position because C is the bottom note of the position. Music is built from the bottom up. And so we use that a lot. So this is C position. Now there's a lot of C positions on the piano. This is C position, C position, C position, whatever. It's C position all over. So which C position we're using depends on the music. What's it say? It's telling us to use this C position. So this is where we're going to be to play this. Now, I'm very much opposed to having all these finger numbers in the music. When I was little, a million years ago, and first starting to learn to play, I wouldn't bother with the notes. I'd forget the notes. I don't want to mess with that. I simply read the finger numbers. I could read these finger numbers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I knew the finger numbers, so I could just read the finger numbers. I didn't bother with the notes. Later on, it caused me a big problem because when you start moving around, your fingers are on different notes. And that's like, oh no. So then I had to go back and I had to learn the notes when I should have been learning them all along. And my point is, I'm trying to get you to avoid that. Don't read the finger numbers. It'd be better if you took a pencil and crossed out all the finger numbers in the thing except for the first one. You can leave the first finger numbers because that tells you where the hands go here. You don't need any other finger numbers in this piece at all. Read the notes, please, not the finger numbers. We got the clef signs. You sort of know where the notes are, what the note names are. Yeah. We'll work on it as we go through the book. We need to know how long to hold the notes down, because not all notes are going to be held down the same length of time. And that's where the numbers come in. That's 4/4. It's called a time signature because it tells you about the counting, how to count the piece, the rhythm, how to figure it out. The top number tells you how far you have to count. We have to count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The bottom number tells us what we're counting, because if you're going to count something, it'd be nice to know what you're counting. The 4 stands for quarter note, 1/4, a quarter of something, a fourth, quarter note. It's simply telling you there is the same as 4 quarter notes in every measure. Well, that's wonderful, so what's a measure? Remember the measure lines or bar lines, the vertical lines that connect, okay? Well, that distance, that space between them, that's called a measure or a bar, depending on what country you're from. Measure or bar. Now, we need to know what these notes are. They're different. They look different. Because the notes in the upper staff at the beginning, it's a solid dot with a line. And then in the lower staff is just a circle. The solid, on the upper staff, the solid dot with a line, these are called quarter notes or crotchets, depending on what country you're from. One of the teachers I had was an English teacher, was born and raised in England. She would call them crotchets and quavers, and I'm thinking, what? She had to translate for me. So the quarter notes are called crotchets. I'm going to use the American names, and if you're in England or somewhere where they use a different name, I'm leaving it up to you to do the translations. So I'm going to call these quarter notes. These solid circles with the lines, it's in the upper staff there at the beginning. All of these are quarter notes. Well, remember I said there's the same as 4 quarter notes in every measure. So if you look at the first measure, measures the distance between the lines, you'll see there's 4 quarter notes in it. That's great, because there should be something like that. Works out. Tells us how long, because the quarter note is going, they say a beat. You can call it a count, call it anything you want. The point is that when the clock starts ticking, those are beats most of the time. And a quarter note's going to get a beat, so it gets one. So it's a beat, beat, beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. And a quarter note is 1 beat. That's how long a quarter note lasts, 1 beat. We'll look in the second measure. You see 2 quarter notes and then this open circle with a stem. That's called a half note. That's the same as 2 quarters. There's 2 quarters and a half to 2 halves and a whole. It just divides down. Whole note, half note, quarter note. You can keep dividing. 8th note, 16th note, 32nd note, 64th note. Knock yourself out, whatever. Yeah, that's all it is. It just divides. So these first ones are quarter notes, and then in the second measure you get the half note. That gets 2 counts because it's the same as 2 quarter notes. So you hold that down for 2 counts. Well, in the bottom staff you have these open circles. Those are called whole notes. They're the same as 4 quarter notes. So they get 4 counts. And it tells you how long to hold the notes down is all. Now, there's more I can explain here, but I'm going to wait for other lessons to explain them. Plus, I got to review everything anyway. Let's get into this piece a little better. When I start learning a new piece of music, I have a set system or a process, a series of steps I go through to learn a piece of music. Everybody has their own process. You'll have your own. If you have a teacher, they have their own process. It's not a set. You figure it out, what works for you. In all my videos, I use this process. So if you don't have a process, you can start with mine and then change it as you want to. So I'm going to go through my process for learning a piece of music in each of these. You can follow along. Because there's a lot to take in here. And I can't, my brain doesn't work that way. I can't just take it all in one shot. I got to take it in bits and pieces and then put the bits and pieces together and sort of build it. And that's what I'm going to do. So when I go to learn a new piece of music, the first thing I do is I just generally look it over. I want to know about how long it is. This is 2 lines long because those 2 staves connected together, that's 1 line because you're playing them at the same time. So it's 2 lines long. I see a bunch of quarter notes and half notes and whole notes. I see treble and bass clef. And I see the 4/4 time signature. And you always check all of that stuff because it can change. The clef signs can change to other stuff. The time signature can change. Always check it. Know what all that is. Now we have both hands playing at the same time. That'll be fun. So when that happens, I like to start with learning one hand at a time first. And then I'll go try and put them together. And that's usually like starting over. So I'm going to start with the right hand first, the upper staff. And for now, the right hand's going to play the upper staff and the left hand's going to play the lower staff. And that's not a rule. That's just out of convenience. It's just the right hand is closer to the higher notes up here, and the left hand's closer to the lower notes down here. And the upper staff handles the high notes, and the lower staff handles the low notes. So, out of convenience, I'm going to use the right hand for the upper staff and the left hand for the lower staff. It's not always that way. We're going to switch things and it's going to get interesting eventually. Well, it's interesting now, right? For now, in this book, unless I say different, the right hand's going to play the upper staff and the lower hand's going to play the bottom staff. So, I'm start with the upper staff. Starts at the beginning with here. And first, if I have to, I just play the notes. Forget the rhythm, forget the counting, just play the notes. We have this. Just play them all even, whatever. sure you know. And also be doing this drill, say it and play it drill, so you know the names of these notes. And once I have the right hand figured out, then I'll go back and add the rhythm, the counting. Quarter note gets a count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A half note gets 2 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. You get the idea? I hope. And once I have the right hand figured out, then I do the same thing with the left hand. Forget the rhythm, just play the notes. We have a C and then an E. Please don't read finger numbers. You need to read these notes. These, and then the last 2 measures, you have these notes. And then go back and add the counting. Remember, a whole note gets 4 counts now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Isn't this fun? Oh boy. Once I have that worked out, then I try to put the hands together and let's see what happens. Now really, when I'm first doing this, I'm probably going to hesitate all over the place. I don't care. I just want to know which fingers are going down at the same time because it feels weird. I had a time at this when I first started because I just wanted, the hands want to mirror each other. And in piano playing, most of the time they're not. It's different fingers in each hand playing. It's like at the beginning. I got thumb here, I got a little finger here at the same time. And then this one, you can hear. These are together. And then these are together. And then these are together. I got to get all that worked out. Now in the last 2 measures there on the second line, the quarter notes, you have this one and this one back and forth. And then the last one, it's here. Here. See, they're not the same notes, not the same fingers. So I work that out. And then once I have that, then I go back through any hard parts and work on them, try and smooth them out. And then I go through the whole thing carefully and I get rid of any hesitations. The beat, once you start at the beginning, needs to carry on all the way through without hesitations to the end. So you need to be able to play it. Just here. No hesitations. The counting, the beat is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. If you have a metronome, use the metronome if it'll help you. Now once I have the notes and the rhythms figured out and the fingering, no hesitations, then I put in what's known as the expression or articulation. You see these curved lines above the staff here? There's a bunch of them. That's telling you, well, that curved line has a lot of different uses in music, and it's fun sometimes trying to figure out exactly what it is. Here, most of them are slurs. Some of them are phrases, and what do you know? How do you know what's what? What's a slur and a phrase? Well, for now, I'm telling you, connect it every 2 measures together and lift up. Just a little lift, not a big lift. Don't get all excited. Ooh, look at me, how wonderful I look. Just a little lift. It's like taking a breath. It's a, here. So in the upper staff, because there's no curved lines in the lower staff here. This is all connected. Just lift up. Just a little silence there. I cut the half note just a speck short so I can lift up. Go ahead and connect this. I disagree with the curved lines here. Those 2 measures should be all one curved line for both of them. Then lift up and go. Lift up. Here. In the left hand, there's nothing marked. I'm going to suggest, if you can, connect the left hand all the way through. And that's kind of hard to do. See, we have to learn in music to be independent with the hands, doing different things in the hands at the same time. So, like in the second measure, going to the third measure, I'm lifting up. But in the left hand, I want to connect it. See, I lifted up here, but I kept that down. At the end of the line, you have to lift both hands because it's a repeated note. And on piano, when you play a note more than once, repeated notes, you have to lift up. That's just the way the instrument's built. You have to lift up. But Otherwise, keep this left hand all connected all the way through if you can. If that's a bit of a struggle for you and you can't right now, go ahead and lift up in the left hand with the right, but I'd prefer you not if you can. So once I have the articulation out of the way, then I think about the speed. They don't give you speed, so it's just up to you. If you were going to sing it, how fast would you sing it? I don't sing in these videos. They're bad enough as it is. Let's not go there. If you want to sing, you go right ahead. But if you're going to sing, learn the piece first, because singing just adds another layer of hardness to it. To me, I just how fast you go is up to you, but it has to be a steady speed. A little bit about these curved lines, because they have a note at the bottom of the page. I don't want you to get too confused too soon. As I said earlier, a curved line is used for several different things. This is saying the phrases. Well, that's sort of true. A phrase is a musical sentence. You know, we talk in sentences, because and generally there's a little pause between the sentences, because a sentence is a thought. We have thoughts. We talk in thoughts. And the one thought, and then I talk in another thought, and then I'm talking another. Well, it's the same thing in music. You play a sentence, and then you play another sentence, and that's where you lift up. Now, you don't mess up the beat for it. The beat has to be steady, but you just lift up. So this is a little silence, like taking a breath. Those are phrases. A slur, which the curved line also indicates slurs, would be like the last two measures of the first line. So there's a curved line over each one. Well, each of those is not a musical thought. It's both of them together is one musical sentence. If you read the words, you can usually follow the words as to where the sentences are. And you see commas there, or a question mark or whatever, but in the first line, those last two measures, there's nothing there. The word's just, Johnny Joe's lost his shoe. That's one sentence. So those curved lines over those last two measures, those are called slurs. And a slur is simply telling you to connect the notes inside the slur. But you don't necessarily lift up before and after a slur. Lift up before and after a phrase, a sentence. So we'll talk more about slurs and phrases as we go through the book. Generally, a book won't even introduce this kind of stuff this soon, but they introduced it, so I talked about it. We'll talk about it more. Now, you go ahead and learn it. Get it to where you can play it with no hesitations, and then come back to the video and play it with me. We're going to play it together at the same time. You should play the same note I'm playing at the same time I'm playing it. And you can do it one hand at a time if you need to. I put the starting point of this section, this play with me section, in the description of every video where I do it. I don't do it on the more advanced stuff. I do it on this. So if you have to come back to the video later, because you need to learn it first, you can go right to that starting point in the video for the play with me part. Now we go really, really slow. We're not performing it. We're just checking notes and rhythms. So let's do that now. I'm going to give us 4 counts. We're going to go 1, 2, ready, go. That's 4 counts. And let's play this together very slowly. 1, 2, ready, go.